visualizing really this moment, like being 30, I'm now being recorded. I kept visualizing this moment 30 days in. And so it's really kind of majestic that it's happened, you know, that like I'm on the other side and I'm sharing my story. Um, and it's really in huge part, you know, thankfulness to you guys. There's been some people, like all of you, but there's been some people in this community that have just been a total rock. I mean, watching people come in on their day fives and their day sixes and their day threes, and like remembering when I was in there and I was freaking out. And there's a handful of you that were just angels. Like, I don't know you. I don't even know what you look like. Some people, I don't even know their name. Like, I kept joking about AP, you know, I don't even know your first name, but I think it might be Allie or something. But yeah, just epic human beings you guys are. And anyways, okay. So yeah, I'm Jahred, or other Jahred, depending on how you want to go by it. Some people call me Jahred, but that's because I was a bass player in a reggae band. I'm 30 days. I'm also a year and a half no alcohol, and I'm also 25 years clean from heroin, which is a huge one too. Um, really not using much of anything, and really like on my path to like complete sobriety is how I want to spend the rest of my life. And that's making me cry. Trigger warning, I'm gonna fucking cry, and I swear a lot. Okay. I think there's like a couple important like first parts is I grew up in AA. My mom was a raging alcoholic. She got sober when she was pregnant with me because she had her two previous daughters taken away. So I grew up in AA, like around addicts. I feel like I got this impression, it's kind of backwards, but I got this impression that it was like everyone's story was like, I did drugs, they were great, then they got bad, then I quit, now I'm here, life is fine. And that's a bad takeaway from AA, but I was a kid, you know, I didn't know any better. And at 12, trigger warning, I'm going to talk about drugs because that's been my whole fucking stupid life. 12, I started smoking weed. 13, I came home with really bad alcohol poisoning and threw up for 2 days straight. And my mom kind of gave me the deal of like, you can go to AA for your own self for 30 days. And so that's what I chose to do. Met a guy there who started giving me rides. And on day 2, he asked me if I had any weed. We went out looking for weed. Instead, we found Coke and got I think, a 24 pack of beer. And so then my mom's thinking I'm going to AA meetings, and no, I'm totally getting loaded. Tried heroin for the first time at 14. By 17, I was a raging addict. I kicked heroin at 19 years old, and also very shortly after met a woman and got pregnant with our first child. She already had a 1-year-old, and by 21, I was the father of 3 kids. And that really kept me sober for a long time. I had this thing called a dad alarm where like anytime I was feeling slightly too inebriated, this alarm would go off that was like, okay, you're the one that has to be able to drive people to the hospital. You're the one that's like, you know, in charge here, which didn't make any sense that a dumb kid was in charge of this family. But yeah, then I'd say I struggled with alcohol for a long time. Same thing, not really getting drunk, but drinking every day through my kid's childhood, which is really sad. But Kratom is what we're talking about here. In 2017 is probably when I first heard about it, and I had a friend who ran the smoke shops here. That was the only. I'm in Hawaii, and I'm on the Big Island on the eastern tip, in a district called Puna. It's kind of like the Wild West meets paradise. It's a very interesting place, very unique, very Wild West. Um, there's a smoke shop. My friend owned it. I asked him about Kratom because I saw it was there. He's like, bro, I don't touch it because when we run out of it, people come in here acting like crackheads, and so I don't touch it. So I didn't for a while, and then another friend tried it and really was like, bro, you got to try it. It's amazing. At that point, I'd been sober from alcohol, and I'm a musician. I was playing shows a lot, and I get social anxiety pretty bad, which is not a good fit for somebody who's trying to front a band. Um, And at a lot of times we're playing bars and I was trying to stay sober. And so I ended up trying Kratom. I can't lie, I knew right away it was bad. I felt the like rush and was like, this is bad. This is drugs. This isn't a fucking coffee plant. I mean, sure, maybe it's a coffee plant, but like this is drugs. Um, but I did a good job of, I'd say, for 3 or 4 months, um, using it only like on the weekend, like being, whatever, responsible. And I was in a really good place in my life. I was meditating daily. I loved where I lived. My kids were on their way to graduating. We kind of like unschooled, hippie, homeschooled our kids, and they started high school, and then they were all graduating from different programs in the spring of 2018. And then we went through an experience where my house started shaking every 15 minutes for 3 days straight. We have earthquakes here regularly because I'm on the side of an active volcano, which sounds really dumb, but everywhere you are, there's either tornadoes or fires or whatever. Um, I used to run an Airbnb for my uncle, so it was like right by the lava flow. It's like we're very used to lava. Um, wasn't thinking it was going to be a big deal. Got a text, you got to get out of your house now. Went down and actually packed the kids up and drove down to look to see, is this really an emergency? And heard this sound like a jet engine going off. And there's a video that I took where I'm like, kids, get in the fucking car now. And we ended up with 20 minutes to um, throw as much as we could into the cars and get out. The National Guard came in, actually had like, I mean, this whole experience was so traumatizing. Realized I'd left everyone's birth certificates there. I ran a recording studio, all my gear, maybe 50 grand in gear there. Had to convince the National Guard to let me in. They wouldn't let me in, but I actually just said I'm going in, and they didn't stop me or shoot me, which is awesome. Got my kids' birth certificates and all that. And then we were living in our car, like trying to find places to stay so that the kids could finish graduation for 2 weeks. And during this time, I went into full blown like autopilot and just started spooning kratom into my mouth. It was like a way to get through this experience. Um, we ended up deciding that we were going to move after the kids graduated. We moved back to Sacramento, which I hated. I went into deep depression. I just kept spooning more and more into my mouth, kind of with this like idea like, okay, once I'm settled, I'll get rid of this, and get back to my sobriety. Um, Finally got settled in. It was about a 6 month process. And then we were in a house and decided to take a day off. And I made it to 11 a.m. and went into full, like, starting withdrawal. I don't know how much I was taking at that point because I was just keeping like a big bag everywhere I went and just spooning it into my mouth. That was like the fall of 2018. I just kept on taking it. I just kept on thinking, next week, maybe, next week, maybe, next week, maybe. Um, and of course, kept having to take more and more, or else I would wake up in withdrawal. I don't think I got any noticeable benefit from it since like 2019, maybe, like where I would take some and go, oh, I feel a relief, like I feel either a high or some type of benefit. The rest of the time, I mean, it literally just felt like I was like water or something. Like if I don't take it, I'm going to die. I'm going to be in crazy withdrawal and I can't function as a father and a husband and do my job and all of that stuff. And that went on for all the way till last year. Um, my wife and I, wife of 23 years, and I divorced. It was a really difficult time. I started taking even more. I started drinking again. Um, it was bad. Um, and then I moved back here to Hawaii alone. Um, met an amazing woman 6 months later, and she asked me about it, the kratom thing. Oh, also had the experience. The first place I moved was up to a buddy's house, and we got snowed in. And there was another guy that got snowed in with us and couldn't get his kilo of kratom he'd ordered. And he found out I had some, and I was like down to the last like few ounces, and I was like, bruh, like I mean, I'm gonna share with you, but like fuck, we're in a fucked up situation here. We both knew it, It's like so stupid. It felt stupid. It felt stupid. It felt like heroin made more sense in a weird way. Like you get high and you feel great for a little while. This wasn't that. Like there was no noticeable thing. The only time I get high is if I took like major extracts and drank Kratom martinis and took like 3 tablespoons of powder and a shot, like an extract shot, and drink a Kratom martini while I'm playing a kava bar or something, and then I would get like buzzed enough to where it felt cool, but really no. And then my tolerance would just go up, and then I'd have to take more just to stay from getting sick. I'm starting to tear up again. It was such a hellish ride, guys. It sucked. So I met this lady, and she asked me about it. Like, what's the deal with this powder? You're like spoonfuling in your. I mean, like probably every 2 hours, like two or three. And I wasn't even using a spoon. I was using like a business card and just like scooping out as much as I could and dumping it in my mouth. And was like, if I did too much, I would start throwing up. And if I did not enough, I would be like sweating within an hour. Um, God, it's so good to talk about this and like say it all out loud. I've been like part of the kratom journey is it's very solitude because people either don't know anything about it or they're like, what are you going to kick spinach next? Like they literally think you're like crazy or people act like you're abstaining from coffee or something. They don't get it. So it's such a lonely thing. Um, Anyways, she was amazing and she started researching for me. She found the podcast and I started binging the podcast. I'm going to move. There's some family setting up nearby where I'm at. Um, started I started binging the podcast and we made a date to start a tapering process. And that was in June of last year, I guess. I get weird about years. And I started by, I was supposed to weigh what I was taking without dropping the dose. And so I weighed and came up with 40 grams a day. But then I started taking 40 grams a day, like weighed out, and I started having withdrawal. Um, so I know that I was taking more than that. Best guess is probably 50, 55 grams a day. Um, so I ended up deciding, we like listened to different things and different people's journeys, ended up deciding to cut my dose from 40 to 20 when I felt like I had a week off. And actually, it wasn't horrible. And so then, like within 2 days of that, I was like, let's drop it another gram, and then let's drop it another gram. And then all of a sudden, I get hit, and it was hell. It was worse than heroin withdrawal. It was much worse. Every bone in my body felt like it was breaking all at the same time. I was sweating. I couldn't sleep. I was having panic attacks. Um, it was absolutely horrid. Not to scare anybody off, but it was horrid. And I was still taking it. I was still taking whatever 17 grams a day and going through like full blown like hell. Um, in that same like week, I had a cop show up at my door telling me that with divorce papers from my ex, I had a nurse call me to tell me my mom was dying. I got COVID that turned into pneumonia. I mean, this was hell. And I kept on like, I'm not going to up my dose. I'm not going to up my dose. I'm just going to stay here. I did a long slow from there, dropping a gram a week because I'd found some groups finally. I hadn't found you guys yet. Um, I found some groups on Facebook, but really one of them, the answer to every question I posted was to take subs, and that wasn't the thing I wanted to do. Um, and nothing against anybody who's taking them, whatever path you're on, like I applaud you, but that was not the path for me. Um, so yeah, I went a gram a day for a while, a gram a week for a while, and it was still hell. I couldn't believe that like I was taking 5 doses spread out throughout the day. A gram split up 5 ways. I mean, you're talking a pinch, and taking that pinch out of each dose every time, like clockwork, 2 or 3 days later, I would have 2 to 3 days where I was like useless and anxiety and couldn't sleep. And this went on for 6 months. Um, I got to like the 13, 14 gram rate. And I'm really, at first, my girlfriend weighed out doses for me. And then I was like, for me to do this, I have to start doing it myself. And I promised her that I would tell her if I ever slip, if I ever go even a half a gram over, I will let you know and I'll put you back in control of it. She's an angel. God, what an angel. And I did it, like pat myself in the back. I did. I never upped my dose. I did this hellish ride for 6 months, but around the 12-gram mark, I could not go lower. Every time I tried to go even just I tried one time to do like a quarter gram, like 0.1 off of each dose. Um, and it just fucked me up. I guess that's a half a gram. Anyways, it was just too much. And then the feeling of every time taking that drop and then knowing that I'm still on this ride, like we were doing the math, we're like, at this rate, it's like another 9 months or something. And I finally just decided, I had a week available. One of my friends became a doctor. One of my like long-term friends became a doctor that takes insurance. And so I switched to her care, and I went in and I talked to her, and she prescribed me some comfort meds, which I'd rather like talk about in person. Like if someone wants to DM me specifically about what I took that helped. Um, and I planned a week where I didn't have any work and I dropped. And once again, I mean, it was hell. And she found, we'd been listening to the podcast, both of us, in our time off, and she heard the one with Kelly and Christine, and they mentioned, I think at that point it was like a WhatsApp chat, and I like went and looked for the WhatsApp chat and somehow found you guys, found the Signal chat. Um, and that was like right before doing this, and then I did it and took my last dose and looked at the schedule and was like, okay, I've got a week till the next thing I absolutely have to do, and just hammered through and didn't sleep for a bit. Horrible withdrawal symptoms, just horrible. And that was 30 days ago. And it's been rough. There's been like ups and downs. Like I'd say I hit 3 pink clouds where I was like, I'd be driving my car crying because of how beautiful music sounded. And I'd be like getting like warm shivers in my body instead of cold ones, and feeling like, oh my God, life is like amazing. And then 2 days later, depression out here. I'm instead of looking at the camera, I'm looking at the ocean. You can see the rain will come in off the ocean, and it's like this storm just comes in, and it felt like I could feel the depression coming in like that. Like I'd be sitting there fine, and it would literally feel like a storm cloud was coming in, and I would be in like mass deep depression for 30, 40 hours, and then get out of it, and then sleep okay for a night, and then not for two. And but I'm honestly like better. I'm better now. Like I feel so much better. I've been probably 4 days, 5 days of like feeling great. I'm not sleeping perfectly by any means, but I'm mostly off all the comfort meds. I'm not taking anything else. I'd used a little bit of cannabis early in it, and I've stopped that. Um, I'm just like really eyes on the prize, like visualizing myself in free choice around the things that I put in my body. And it looks like I'm like right at the half an hour mark ish, although there was a long intro, so I don't know how long I've been talking. But that's pretty much it. I'm so grateful to you guys. I'm really grateful to be able to give back. I hope my story helps. I'm down for like anybody coming in on their first week. You can message me day and night. My phone's on mute, so you're never gonna wake me up. Um, and if I'm awake, like I'm down to chat, I'm down to call. We can talk through it. If you haven't quit yet and you want to come up with a plan, if you want to taper, I can tell you more about my hellish journey. I don't know that I would suggest it. It might be better to just rip the band-aid off. But again, I don't know. I don't know. Everyone's gonna have their own journey that's the best. Yeah, super grateful to you guys. Big shout out to other Jahred who actually like phone called me a couple times. Um, Blake and Mike for playing chess with me while I was going through the shits. Um, yeah, and just super grateful to be alive, to be on the other side of this. There was points where I thought I would just take it for the rest of my life. I was just like, fuck this. Like, I will just take this stupid powder for the rest of my life. And then there was times where it was so clear, like, I cannot keep taking this. I cannot be like on this roller coaster. This is the dumbest thing I've ever done in my life. It's so stupid. It really is so stupid, guys. Like it's not that any of us are stupid or any of you are stupid, but this fucking plant and this fucking addiction, it reminds me of tobacco addiction, except with like a heroin withdrawal. Like where it's like this is doing nothing for me, and if I don't do it, I'm gonna go through fucking heroin withdrawal. Um, what a horrid experience. It felt like an exorcism, but I think that demon is out of me. 30 days. Was looking forward to 31 days and loving you guys so much. Aloha from Hawaii. Thank you so much for hosting, Hillary, and reaching out to me. And you guys are just the bee's knees, whatever the fuck that means. Aloha. And I'll give you a little glimpse of what I've been looking at the whole time. Here we go. Beautiful Hawaii. Um, yeah, if you ever want to come visit, you can't stay with me, but I'll meet you at the coffee house or something. Aloha. Bye.
Okay, thank you, Jared. Sorry, I was trying to wait until